What's going on, everyone? I know it's been about 2 weeks since my last video. I figured I'd go ahead and just give you a heads up on what happened. I did not forget last week. I just took time off to spend time with family. It's my sister's birthday on the 30th of last month. And then I had to take care of some personal business. So that left very little time for me to sit down and record a video. I could have recorded something or had something pre-recorded, but I generally film these the day of or the day before I upload them. It allows me to not so much dig in and focus in on something or get obsessed with an idea, and it's more of like a free-flowing form of consciousness. I want to wish everybody, and hopefully everybody had a happy 4th of July for those of you who are in America. And to everyone else, hope you had a great week since I was last here. This video is not a mistake. No, I did not render it improperly. This is kind of like an example, and I try to do that with all my videos, in that I try to use whatever I'm playing or participating in. Like my last video was Genshin Impact, and even though I was playing poorly, it was the focus of the discussion was on loot boxes. Before that, I was talking about some things like, expectations, showed some of the trailer footage from Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and kind of what I'm doing going forward is going to be less some of that. I'll be delving into one of my favorite games of all time, but that's besides the point. One thing I really want to touch on is in this era of remakes, I've been noticing a trend in gaming, and it's frightening. And this gameplay you're seeing, or not seeing, is a representation of what I'm seeing coming from these quote-unquote remakes, and that is censorship. And what do I mean by censorship? I'm not just talking about content that could be questionable or is just downright inappropriate, like the hot coffee mod in GTA San Andreas. Even that, I would say, you probably shouldn't be buying your kid an M-rated video game to begin with if you're that concerned about it. And a lot of this has to go with the personal accountability that I brought up. A lot of people are upset that things are showing up in games or films or movies or shows or whatever that offends them today. And what do I mean by that? Meaning, back when it first came out, you weren't offended, or other people weren't offended. And those who were, they didn't matter because they were never going to participate in that thing to begin with. Now that gaming and anime, as an extension, has gone mainstream, quote unquote, it has reached this point where I'm seeing things like in Resident Evil 4 will change Ashley's outfit because it's not appropriate for today's standards. But people still dress like that. So why is something that's based in the early 2000s not time period accurate? And this is something that I want to highlight. It doesn't mean that I think how she's dressed or being upskirts is terrible or whatever, right? You obviously don't do that to real people. In fact, fuck it, I'm not gonna qualify it. There's no need to anytime you need to make a qualification on something, that means you are admitting something's wrong with it, and I fall into this habit of doing that, and I think that's just a byproduct of being human, right? What I'm saying is, anytime something is changed to appease people who are never going to participate in that thing, you are hurting the fans. I don't care about the people who are going to write 10 articles about, oh, you can look up Ashley's skirt during the ladder climb scene. Okay, I can boot up the PlayStation 2 version and still do the same. I can boot up the GameCube version, I can boot it up on PC. The Switch release, if I remember correctly, still has it. The 360 and PS3 versions that are on. There's so many versions of this game that changing the newest one to appease people who don't care about that game serves nothing but to alienate your fans. And I've seen plenty of companies do this over and over and over again, of preaching or chasing after fans who aren't really fans. They're just people crying on Twitter about this stuff. And I'm not saying that their complaints may not be valid. It's fantastic. But at the end of the day, are they your target audience? Have they ever purchased that thing? And then a lot of them say, oh, yes, I actually was a fan for a long time, but, it's just beyond the pale. Oh, okay. If it's beyond the pale, I can point to all the things that you do that fit that exact mold. And I've seen this happen time and time again. I've seen people call out people on Twitter for liking quote unquote lolly characters. And then when you go through their own likes and retweets, you see the exact same art. They're chastising somebody else because they don't like that person. It's never about the medium. That person wants control. And this is similar to that whole lack of self-accountability that I highlighted in my loot box video. And that people are trying so hard to dictate other people's lives while also surrendering their own personal accountability to others. And by others, I mean people who are in positions of power. I'm talking your government officials lobbying to ban loot boxes, or talking about regulating, for instance, things that are more close to home for some people, like firearms or free speech, and dubbing hate speech. At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. When you cut out the person's tongue, you aren't afraid of what you're not silencing them. You're afraid of what they will say. And what does that say about our games, our media, our entertainment, that we're censoring it? We're not afraid of what of what that represents. We're afraid of what it says about our culture. And a lot of our culture is that, yes, women dress provocatively. You can see that every day. You boot up Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, hop on, walk into Walmart. You will see exactly you see in some video games, if not worse. Does that make it whatever? It is what it is. It's reality, right? Again, I'm trying to work on not qualifying everything that I say. You can see the same thing with guys who are, obsessed about one thing or another. These things play out in the real world. So to say that we need to hide that from our entertainment is to lie to ourselves that the real world is that bad, if not worse in many occasions. You can boot up any music video in the last 2 years and see far worse than what you see in a lot of these games that people are calling for to be changed, and they're objectifying people. And the issue is never what's in the medium. It's people's own self-worth and their own inability to appreciate who they are as a person. A lot of these people have self-confidence issues, and then they push that off as like, oh, well, it's just wrong for you people to like this thing. Why? If you stop yourself, if you are here watching this video or really listening to it, because there's nothing to watch, obviously, because this video is a metaphor visually for what I'm discussing. If you are here listening to what I'm saying, ask yourself this question. That thing that I don't like, that other people do that I don't like, why do I not like that? Stop trying to dictate other people's lives and ask yourself, why do I have an issue with that? Because the sooner you answer that question, the faster you get to a resolution. Because 9 out of 10 times, the problem isn't with that thing. That problem is with you, the person. I, for myself, had confidence issues my entire life. Being overweight, being, of a certain ethnicity and thinking I'm lame, or, the sound of my own voice and hating aspects of myself. I found things in other people that I disliked about myself and made it something to criticize. I was always talking about, oh, this person is that and the other, that fat, so you should lose weight. But really, at the end of the day, I'm talking about myself. And that's something that a lot of people fail to realize, is that 90% of their problems are themselves, and they're seeing their own reflection mirrored back at them through society. People who criticize video game characters for being too attractive, they themselves don't feel attractive, or they have body issues. They're not confident in who they are. They don't appreciate or love who they are as a person. And you're not going to fix them by removing attractive characters in video games. That doesn't help anybody. at the end of the day. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but it's just pixels on the screen. Yeah, if it's just pixels on the screen, why do we need to change them? If it's just this, if it's just that, if you always have to say it's just this thing, therefore it should not be a problem, we should just change it. Ask yourself, why does it need to change if it is just that? Because when you start asking that question, that's when you realize that thing that people are wanting to be changed isn't that important. It's not that deep. But people make it their be all end all of life. And they never hit that satisfaction when that thing changes because they aren't happy with themselves. Therefore, that thing that changed that they were championing for, they're not satisfied because it hasn't filled that hole in their own self. And the only person who can fill that hole is that person, not things. And this is why we have people chasing money and cars and women and men and, fame and all this stuff. And none of it is making people happier. Because at the end of the day, 90% of people hate who they are, they hate what they do, and they hate being alive. They're not saying, oh man, you should just, hit the shut off button on life. No, what I'm saying is learn to love yourself, learn to be better, and learn to challenge yourself when you see things reflected back at you that you don't like. Now, this will probably be the last video that I do on this sort of introspective or rant style subject for a while. I want to dig into something that I've been passionate about for a long time. One of my favorite games of all time, and Good Gentleman by Ray Kaufman did a video on this. I want to do a deep dive into Final Fantasy Tactics. And when I say deep dive, I'm talking full-on discussions about classes, story elements, chapters, specific battles in the game. This is going to be a long series, and I'm looking forward to it. In addition to that, I'll also be doing potentially videos on mods and things of that sort for the game. And really, I just kind of feel inspired to talk about my favorite game of all time. Anyway, let me know if I'm a moron or if you just think I'm just wrong about everything. As always, thanks for watching, or not. Peace out.